Hello everyone, American Sports 365. Here with me once again is my colleague Alex. So, Arsenal returned to action and played two Premier League games. Played Chelsea at home and Newcastle away. Thankfully Arsenal picked up all 3 points in both games, beating Chelsea 3-1 at the Emirates and Newcastle 2-0 at St. James Park. So two big wins, and Arsenal's title hopes are still alive, though obviously it's going to be challenging because it's kind of out of Arsenal hands at this point, but it's two important wins nonetheless. What are your thoughts on these two victories?
Yeah, they're two big victories for us. We needed to bounce back, and we certainly did so, and because of that, we still have a chance.
Yeah, obviously it would require Man City to drop some points between now and the end of the season. Maybe they will. They do have a lot of fixture congestion, so we'll see. But yeah, definitely two important wins. I would say, especially the one against Newcastle, because Newcastle away is definitely a tough fixture for pretty much every team in the Premier League. Even Man City only went there and got a draw, so to go in there, win, and keep a clean sheet was really good. So I think that was the more impressive performance out of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of positives in these performances, there were quite a few, thankfully. Aaron Ramsdale was certainly one of them. He made 8 saves overall across these two games, 3 against Chelsea, 5 against Newcastle, including one fantastic save in the second half against Newcastle, denied them a goal from a header. Made several other really good stops in that game as well. So Aaron Ramsdale has had a lot of strong performances and had two really good ones, particularly his performance against Newcastle. I thought was one of his best performances of the season, to be honest.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Aaron Ramsdale's performances in these two games?
Yeah, it's been excellent. I mean, his performances had dipped a little bit, but now he's back to his best, and that was a big factor in us winning these games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he had that one error, against Southampton. None of Man City's goals are really his fault, to be honest. So I don't really put that on him. And even the one goal that Chelsea scored wasn't really his fault either. But yeah, he played really well. And distributed the ball well. Didn't make any errors. And like I said, when called on to make saves, he did so really, really well. And I think, honestly, I give him man of the match against Newcastle, even though there were several other players that were really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the defending, it's very good overall from Arsenal. Obviously kept a clean sheet against Newcastle and limited Chelsea to just a single goal, which was really just a consolation goal in the second half. Overall, very good. Benoit was very good. Gary Megos was very good, aside from one error. It's Chelsea. Kiwior, who came in for holding, was very good in those two games. Only one of the defenders didn't play particularly well in those games was Zinchenko, to be honest. But overall, the defense was quite good in these two games. What are your thoughts on the defense in these two games for Arsenal?
Yeah, it was much better. I mean, Kiwior was pretty good. It's definitely better than Holding had been. So I think Kiwior is probably a better choice than Holding. I think we know that now, which we had known in a few games earlier. But overall, the defending was a lot better, and I think now that we've figured out an alternative to the problem, I think we should have really good defensive performances for the rest of the year, probably.
Yeah, I think that was one thing. I look at the defense now. It's right in there to take out Holding sooner, make some changes to that defensive unit that clearly wasn't operating very well together. 3 or 4 straight games. But yeah, overall they played well. Like I said, really aside from Zinchenko, who's kind of defensively vulnerable in those two games, especially against Newcastle, which is why to subbed him off in the second half for Tierney, which I think was definitely the right decision. He was getting exposed defensively way too much in that game. But yeah, overall the defense was quite good, and QBR's really stepped up. Obviously, he's only played in a handful of Premier League games. Doesn't have much experience at all. But aside from a shaky first couple of minutes against Chelsea, he's been very good. And I thought he especially handled himself very well against Newcastle, which is certainly not his team to play against, even if they had some struggles in terms of scoring goals. They certainly have plenty of threats. So, yeah, overall impressive, and particularly impressed with him given his lack of experience. So, in terms of the midfield, Arsenal's midfield played well in both games. Really dominated against Chelsea, which wasn't really much of a surprise, to be honest. Certainly held their own against Newcastle. I think Jorginho coming in for Partey was the right decision. He played really well in both games. Odegaard was fantastic. Scored twice against Chelsea, scored again against Newcastle. Just looked really, really sharp. And Xhaka was also really good as well. He got 2 assists against Chelsea. So overall, I think Arsenal's midfield was definitely a really big positive in these 2 games. So what are your thoughts on Arsenal's midfield performances in these 2 games?
Yeah, they were much better. I think Jorginho came in and played quite well. Sure, it was a tough decision for Arteta to drop Partey because he hadn't played well in the last couple of games, but he had played quite well in the season up until then. But he made the big decision, and given Jorginho's performances, it seemed like he made the right decision.
Yeah, obviously, overall, Partey's been one of Arsenal's best players this season, but he did struggle for a couple of weeks in a row, and sometimes you gotta make tough decisions. And sure, dropping him wasn't easy, but it does look to be the right decision. Again, maybe it's just fatigue since Partey started like almost every single Premier League game this season. But Arsenal, Arteta definitely got it right in terms of those changes. I think the midfield played really well. Like I said, Odegaard especially, he's up to 15 goals and 7 assists now in the campaign, and he's tied Kevin De Bruyne for the most non-penalty goals in a single season by a Premier League midfielder. So certainly some distinguished company to be in. So yeah, played well, really, really well overall, and I think Odegaard was the star of that midfield, and I think he definitely deserves man of the match versus Chelsea. He was fantastic in that game. He was fantastic against Newcastle as well. Fair. So in terms of the other attacking players, I think 2 standouts to me were Jesus and Martinelli in these 2 games. Jesus scored Arsenal's 3rd goal against Chelsea. Didn't score it against Newcastle, but his work rate was excellent in that game. And then Martinelli didn't score in either game, but his movement and excellence on the ball, and then the shot deflected and led to the own goal, which sealed the victory against Newcastle. So I think both of them played really well in these 2 games, and definitely contributed to the win. What are your thoughts on Jesus and Martinelli in these 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, both Jesus and Martinelli, their performances had also dipped for the, 3-4 games that we played poorly, but they also both bounced back and were much more clinical and deadly and aggressive in these 2 matches, and that was a big factor.
Yeah, I think both of them, weren't quite at their best in the last couple of games, but Jesus looked really sharp in both games. Like I said, scored against Chelsea, and even though Martinelli technically didn't get a goal, he was threat throughout against Newcastle, and again, it was his shot that led to the own goal that sealed the victory. So both of them played well. Martinelli's already on 15 goals for the season, so he's played really well, and Jesus overall has been really good since coming back from his injury, so it's good to see that two of them continue to rise a little performance that we know they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of Mandarin, I think Arteta did a really good job in these two games. Obviously, two big decisions, dropping Party for Jorginho and dropping Holding for Kiwior. I think both those decisions were spot on. The only decision that was a little bit questionable maybe was starting Zinchenko versus Newcastle, considering how he'd been kind of exposed offensively and just against Chelsea. But he did sub on Tierney in the second half. But overall, I think he set the team up really well, made some tough decisions, but correct ones. So I think he did a really good job in these two games, especially in a tough fixture like playing Newcastle at St. James Park. What are your thoughts on how Arteta did in these two games?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else on the team, I think his performance was better than the last two matches. He had made some questionable decisions in the previous several matches, but his decisions were, for the most part, spot on these last two matches, and that was, again, another big factor in us winning both of these matches.
Yeah, I agree. I think he, like I said, made some tough choices, but ultimately good ones, and hopefully he sticks with those choices moving forward. I gave him an 8 out of 10 against Chelsea, and then 9 out of 10 against Newcastle. But yeah, did a really good job setting the team up well for success in both those games, and especially with Arsenal had to deal with Newcastle's physicality in that game. They weathered it well, even though easy to get really frustrated with that. But I think they did a really good job and definitely contributed to vital wins. So there you have it, two important wins back to back for Arsenal. Title race is still on. Arsenal is now officially confirmed to finish at worst second now. So shouldn't be in a successful season. Hopefully Arsenal can keep winning and keep their title hopes alive. The next match is at home against Brighton, which isn't going to be easy, but hopefully Arsenal can get 3 points and at least extend the title race for another week.
Yep, hopefully.